This is your English listening practice podcast to help you learn and improve naturally. How can you stop overthinking when you try to speak English? Most learners face this problem and find themselves stuck in their heads, trying to get everything perfect before they even say a word.
That's right. And when they overthink, they end up sounding stiff, weird, or even saying things that don't make sense. It's like their brain is working overtime, but their mouth just freezes.
It's a common struggle, but here's the good news. You don't have to be perfect to speak English well. In fact, the key to speaking confidently might be simpler than you think. I'm Emily, by the way.
And I'm John. This is Quick English Fix, the place where you can learn English while you relax, lie down, or even while you sleep. No pressure, no stress, just natural English and interesting topics.
And today, we're talking about how to stop overthinking and just start speaking. We'll share practical tips and examples you can try right away. So if you've ever felt stuck in your head while trying to speak, this is for you.
Let's get started.
So, let's talk about why overthinking happens in the first place. For most learners, it all comes down to one thing, the fear of making mistakes.
It's like they're so focused on trying to sound perfect, using the right words, the right grammar, the right pronunciation, that they forget the most important part, which is just getting their message across.
The thing is, when you're too focused on being perfect, you actually end up making more mistakes. Because instead of thinking about what you want to say, you're thinking about how to say it. And that's when things get messy.
Let me give you an example. Listen to this. I go to park yesterday and see many dog.
Even though John made a few mistakes, I still understood what he meant. He wanted to say he went to the park and saw dogs. The message was clear, even if the grammar wasn't perfect.
And that's the point. As long as your message is clear, it doesn't matter if you make a few mistakes along the way.
Here's another example. Let's say I'm trying to say, I'm going to the store to buy some milk. But instead I say I go store for milk.
And again, even though it's not perfect, I still understand what you're trying to say. You're going to the store to buy milk. The message is there.
So the takeaway here is that making mistakes is really not a big deal. As long as you're focusing on your message, people will understand you. And the more you practice, the fewer mistakes you'll make over time.
But here's the thing. While it's okay to make mistakes, we also want to help you avoid overthinking and just start talking. So how do you do that?
That's what we're diving into next. Let's talk about how to stop overthinking and just start speaking without the fear of making mistakes.
Okay, let's get into our first tip. Slow down. A lot of times people overthink while speaking because they feel like they need to say everything quickly. Like if they don't respond fast enough, they've failed or something.
Right. And that's just not true. There's no timer in real-life conversations. No one's standing there with a stopwatch, waiting for you to reply in 2 seconds. So take your time.
When you slow down, you give yourself enough time to think about what you want to say and how to say it. And guess what? Speaking slowly actually makes you sound more confident, not less.
Totally. If you're speaking too fast, it can make you sound nervous or stressed. But when you slow down, you sound calm and in control. And if you're practicing alone, you can take ages to say something. Who cares? As long as you're practicing, you're improving.
Here's a great trick to try, whether you're in a conversation or practicing alone. Start with something like, well, or even repeat part of the question. For example, if someone asks, what did you do last weekend? You can say, last weekend. This gives you a few extra seconds to think about your answer while still sounding natural.
It doesn't just work in conversations. If you're practicing alone, like narrating your day or talking to yourself, you can use the same trick. Start with, well, or today I went shopping, and take your time to think about what you want to say next. No one's rushing you.
It's such a simple trick, but it makes a huge difference. It takes the pressure off and lets you focus on what you're saying instead of how fast you're saying it.
Okay, let's talk about another tip that can really help you stop overthinking and just start talking, which is breaking the ice with simple phrases.
Sometimes the problem isn't just about overthinking. It's about not knowing how to start a conversation in the first place. Like you're sitting there thinking, what should I say? How do I even begin?
Exactly. And that's where simple phrases come in. If you have a few go-to phrases ready, it takes the pressure off. You don't have to think too hard about how to start. You just use one of these phrases, and the conversation flows from there.
For example, let's say you're talking to someone about a movie. Instead of trying to come up with the perfect sentence, you can just say, "What do you think about that movie?" It's simple, it's natural, and it gets the conversation going.
Or if you're not sure about something, you can say, "I'm not sure, but I think." This is a great way to share your opinion without feeling like you have to be 100% correct. It's casual, it's comfortable, and it keeps the conversation moving.
Here's another one. "That's interesting. Can you tell me more?" This works really well when someone says something you want to hear more about. It shows you're interested, and it gives them a chance to keep talking.
And again, these phrases aren't just for conversations with other people. You can use them when you're practicing alone too. For example, if you're narrating your day or talking to yourself, you can say, "What do I think about this?" Or "I'm not sure, but I think." It's a great way to practice thinking and speaking in English without overthinking.
Okay, let's talk about something that trips up a lot of learners. Focusing too much on grammar rules while speaking.
Right. And don't get me wrong, grammar is important. It's the foundation of correct English. But here's the thing. If you're constantly thinking about grammar while you're speaking, it can actually slow you down and make you sound less natural.
It's like trying to drive a car while reading the instruction manual at the same time. You're not going to get very far, and you'll probably feel stressed the whole time.
So here's the trick. When you're speaking, just talk. Don't worry about getting every rule right. If you notice you've made a mistake, keep going. Don't stop mid-sentence to correct yourself. Just finish what you're saying.
And then, after the conversation or even after practicing alone, you can take a moment to reflect. Write down the mistakes you think you made, whether it's in your phone's notes app or a notebook. For example, if you said, "She go to the store," you can write that down and later check the correct way. "She goes to the store."
This way, you're still learning the correct grammar, but you're not letting it interrupt your speech. You're giving yourself permission to make mistakes in the moment, which is how you build fluency.
And over time, as you keep practicing and reviewing your mistakes, you'll start to remember the correct ways naturally. It's like training your brain to notice patterns without overthinking them.
Okay, last tip. And this one's a little different, but trust me, it works. It's called visualization.
Visualization?
Yes, visualization. This might feel a little awkward at first, but hear me out. Visualization is basically this. You close your eyes and picture yourself doing something successfully. In this case, you imagine yourself speaking English confidently, smoothly, and calmly.
Okay, but how does that help? It's not like imagining it makes it real.
Actually, it kind of does. When you visualize yourself speaking English confidently, your brain starts to believe it's possible. It's like mental rehearsal. You're training your brain to feel more comfortable in real-life situations.
I guess that makes sense. But how do you even do it?
It's simple. Before a conversation, or even before practicing alone, close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Then picture yourself speaking English. Imagine the words coming out smoothly, the other person understanding you perfectly, and you feeling calm and confident the whole time.
But what if I mess up in my visualization? Do I have to start over?
No, that's the beauty of it. If you imagine yourself making a mistake, just remind yourself, it's okay, I'm still learning. The point is to train your brain to stay calm and confident, even when things don't go perfectly. It might feel silly at first, but the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. And over time, you'll notice that you feel less nervous and more confident when you're actually speaking. And that's it for today. We've talked about why overthinking happens, and shared some practical tips to help you stop thinking so much and just start talking.
From slowing down and using simple phrases to focusing on your message and even trying visualization, there's something here for everyone.
We hope these tips help you feel more confident and comfortable when you're speaking English. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about progress.
If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment letting us know which tip worked best for you. We love hearing from you. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Take care, everyone.
Time to go over some new words and phrases before we finish. Sound stiff, meaning to speak in a way that feels unnatural or too formal. Example, If you only use textbook phrases, your speech might sound stiff. Getting across meaning to communicate an idea clearly. Example, he speaks well, but sometimes his main point doesn't get across. The takeaway, meaning, the most important thing to remember from something. Example, the takeaway from this lesson is that practice makes perfect. Diving into meaning, to start something with energy and focus. Example, today we're diving into some useful English expressions. Go to meaning, something or someone you always rely on. Example, this podcast is my go-to for learning natural English. Trips up, meaning causes someone to make a mistake. Example, pronunciation of similar words trips up a lot of English learners. Keep practicing, and soon these phrases will feel natural when you speak. Thanks for listening. For more English listening and speaking practice, subscribe for more podcast episodes. Keep improving your fluency with real, everyday conversations.